Oftentimes in life, there will be moments when something you held so dear ended up disappointing you. Maybe it was your fault for dreaming so big, or maybe it was just simply wasn't what you wanted. For me, I think it was both. Because I feel a character that I loved was ruined. Upon not just seeing this panel, but the context around it, my heart completely sank. But not just because Gojo had died, but because I had begun to experience my own inner flashbacks, so to speak, of moments in fiction that greatly disappointed me in the past few years. For some reason, very recently, it feels like various media in the past few years have attempted to reach heights that are greater than ever before, only to fall so low. And this moment feels the same. Before I even really dive into the reasons why making this video or why I'm so disappointed, I want to make this very clear. Unlike my Sukuna fraud videos and my Megami video, this is not being made for an agenda or humor, but instead, it's for me. And the fans who not only were crushed by the content of this chapter, but also betrayed and frustrated at another author who's seemingly ruining a beloved character for simply the sake of progression. And it's not just the fact that Gojo dies, but it's because in the very last chapter, we were told not only did he win, but he also was at peak strength in the battle. You see, these two moments seemingly can't exist within the same space due to the context of one moment, Gojo winning the fight, and the next moment he's lost? And the point isn't the fact that he just lost, but it's the way in which he was defeated, and the explanation behind that. However, before we dive into all of that, I want to discuss why the way that this moment is written ruins Gojo's character and actually turns him into the strongest fraud to ever exist. In order to do this, we will discuss the context of the scene, and then we will use our knowledge of the scene to take a look back at Gojo's character development. Finally, it will end with a brief discussion of this fight. You see, in this moment, Gojo laments that not only did he give his mind, his body, his heart, and his very soul with his training, dedication, and talent just in hopes to reach Sukuna, but he also explains that none of it reached him, as Sukuna beat him when he wasn't even trying. The problem with this statement is that this is Satoru Gojo, the supposed strongest sorcerer of the modern era. He's so powerful that all of his main villains, including Kenjaku, needed to jump him just to get rid of him. And they knew that they couldn't kill him. Instead, they had to seal him. But apparently, the guy who was built up in the series as the strongest, going against the King of Curses, his only equal, didn't have to try. This is ridiculous. And what's more annoying is Gojo goes on to glaze this man even further by saying that he doesn't even think he could have won if Sukuna wasn't using the 10 shadows.
What?
Brody, are you insane? You were just running this nigga up and down the block this entire fight. Ironically, you handled the 10 shadows for 10 chapters. Like, bro, are you dumb? But apparently, now we are being told that Sukuna stands alone as the strongest in the verse. And I understand that someone has to lose, and that it was likely going to be Gojo. But that doesn't mean that Gojo couldn't go out being Sukuna's equal, or at least right up there with him. Instead, we have a destroyed Gojo who apparently had fun being completely outclassed in everything he did, since Sukuna didn't even give it his all or apparently wasn't trying. And before you say, well, Sukuna still needed Maho, and yes, this is true, I will get back to why these statements are contradictory. The purpose of the point is Gojo states, even without the 10 shadows, he probably couldn't have won. Now let's get into why this ruins Gojo's character.
君は五条悟だから最強なのか、最強だから五条悟なのか。
Ever since this recent chapter, I've heard people saying that Gojo is not about being the strongest and that there's more to his character. And of course, I agree. But let's not make a mistake. Being the strongest is Gojo, and being Gojo means you're the strongest. The reasons why this ruins Gojo's character is not only because it makes Gojo's status as the strongest essentially meaningless, since Sukuna just completely eclipsed him in strength the entire time, but also because the way that this chapter writes him treats him as if all he cares about is fighting. And I want to make this clear. It's not Hanami's statement that irks me, it's Gojo's statements about himself. And I understand that there's a duality to Gojo, that he cares about fighting and his dream. But when you have his final moments ending in this way, I just don't understand how we got to this point. Gojo states that he is glad to have died to someone stronger than him, and then goes on to imply that he has no regrets. Like, bro, Megumi's body is still taken. You didn't even tell him about his father, and what about the students? Didn't you want to foster a new age beyond special grade? Well, none of these characters are even close to strong enough. You said they couldn't enter the fight until you were weaker than them. And this still wasn't the case after you lost your domain expansion? So how the hell are you at inner peace? You didn't accomplish anything.
You have failed me, Inquisitor.
Avenge us!
The fact that he is so satisfied to leave his students behind is sickening. In the past, Gojo has shown that he will do anything for his students to protect them, proving that he cares deeply. But I guess he only wanted to fight strong people and now is satisfied. Not only did he not accomplish anything, but this also recontextualizes Gojo's past fights, and this ties into why his status as the strongest is meaningless. Because when you really think about it, who did Gojo actually beat? Like, think about it for a second. He's only beaten Jogo, who Sukuna washed with 15 fingers, Hanami, who struggled against Yuji and Todo, 2 first grades. Sure, Toji is pretty strong, but he's nowhere near Gojo, Sukuna, or even Yuta and the main cast at this point in the series, with Maki already eclipsing him in strength. Moreover, Gojo losing to Sukuna, who wasn't even trying, makes him the world's strongest jobber. And people have tried to say, well, he got rid of Sukuna's domain expansion, or he wore him down like nobody else could have. And I don't think these points even matter, because obviously Gojo was the only one who was going to be able to do these things. But instead, these points only highlight the issue that Gojo's character only amounted to getting rid of Sukuna's domain and possibly even making him stronger. Because if he can slash like this again, then he will be 10 times more unstoppable than ever before. Now, I don't think Gege is gonna let this happen, but if they do, then how is anybody else supposed to defeat this guy with this new ability? And what's more, is that Gojo has never acted like this before. He's so ready to die, and people try to say that he got humbled. But just 2 chapters ago, he told Agito that he didn't deserve to even be in this fight. And then he even shit-talked Sukuna about his improv. But this man is humbled now? Yes, Sukuna is still a fraud. I don't care what Gojo says because, as I mentioned, this statement about the 10 shadows is contradictory. And since I'm going to do a full fight analysis in the near future, I'll let Classic Man D take it away.
How the hell you gonna have a whole panel with Gojo standing there healing himself and it literally says he won this fight? Sukuna is in shambles, not even a page before. Then the next chapters come out and you telling me that Gojo's in the afterlife glazing Sukuna, saying that he couldn't have beaten him before he had Megumi's body? And this man comes in off screen cut in half, huh? I knew Gojo was gonna get hold, but not like this. Never a time where Gojo was like he wouldn't win. Gojo has donated Sukuna not once, not twice, but 3 times in this one fight and straight up knocked him out. This man got him on the domain expansion battle, and bro only escaped because of Megumi. This man had to run a 3v1 just to stay in the fight. He would have been lost if they weren't there. This is wild.
Not only does Sukuna explain that he needed Mahoraga to show how to tear through Gojo's infinity, but he also mentions that the slash is nearly impossible to pull off. Hopefully that means he won't be able to spam it again, but this indicates that he wouldn't have been able to figure this out if he didn't have Mahoraga. And some people try to say, Gege's not saying that he can't learn it without him, he's just saying that Mahoraga was the fastest route. And as Classic Man D and I have been pointing out for the last 10 chapters, Gojo could have beaten this man on multiple separate occasions. My problem with Sukuna's plan isn't about whether it's smart or not, because honestly, it actually is pretty genius. Using Maho as a vehicle to figure out how to slash through Gojo's infinity actually makes a lot of sense. We already know that Sukuna can learn pretty much anything if he sees it once, and this method is great. But the issue is the execution. This last chapter can't end looking like this, and then out of nowhere, Sukuna is looking like this. Like, all Gege needed to do was a single chapter to flesh this out, but instead he off-screens Gojo and doesn't even explain how Sukuna has enough energy to pull this off. Let's not forget that Gojo was Black Flash amped, began recovering his curse energy with reverse curse energy, and Sukuna was not only missing an arm, but he also had no RCT reserves. So how the hell did he pull this shit off? Plus, we know that when someone is about to use their curse technique, there's an initial spark or something that can be sensed. So why doesn't Gojo sense this? Being that he was already in position where he had advantage, he could have easily dodged this or been able to defend himself. Yet he simply does nothing? If Gege could have just explained this for us. This is bad writing. Gojo being killed off screen is disrespectful to the character that puts your series on the map. This fight just had no business going the way it did, because to be honest, Sukuna fans, the way that this fight was written was so dirty to y'all. For 10 plus chapters, the King of Curses was made to look like a fool. And while yes, it at least would have been logically consistent with the way that the power system worked and how interacting with Limitless works, it still would have made Sukuna very disappointing in another video all by itself. This should have just been Heian-era Sukuna versus Gojo, because Gege would have had to have written this fight with giving both of them respect and integrity, not having any of them hold each other back, or at least give us a definitive answer that doesn't feel cheap. You know, I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I'm done talking about another fan favorite character that I loved who just feels ruined. No, I won't quit reading Jujutsu Kaisen because I don't feel like Gege will need to pull something like this again, and honestly, the stuff with Kashimo is honestly really hype, but I will say that what happened in this chapter is a bad sign. Yet at this point, I've exhausted my ability to be upset. I hope if you feel like me, then maybe you were able to get something out of this video, and if you disagree with that, well, I thank you. If you've disagreed with everything I said, then all I can do is thank you for making it this far to hear me out. But for now, all I can say is, even if Gojo and Sukuna wasn't the battle I may have wanted, at least as a writer myself, I had the opportunity to learn from what I didn't like and try to recreate the stuff that I did in my own style. This isn't me saying that I'm a better writer than Gege nor anyone who's published, but for me, there's a small comfort in knowing that I can change things for myself, and maybe for you. If you're interested in joining me on this journey, please like and subscribe. Peace.